studios of WDBO in sunny Orlando, Florida, here's talk radio host Joe Kelly's Behind the News podcast, where Joe and his listeners and guests discuss the most important issues of the day, plus the crazy and bizarre stories of the infamous Florida man. Here's Joe Kelly.
Well, we got a lot to go over this hour. We've got a rocket launch coming up at 6:13 p.m. here on the Space Coast. It is a SpaceX Falcon 9 with more of the Starlink internet satellites. We'll carry that live here at 6:13 if that happens. So stand by for that. First, though, I'm going to talk about Scott Adams and the Dilbert comic strip. I'm going to play you the full audio from what Scott Adams said. And I would like to just warn you that depending on your racial makeup, and in fact, frankly, this is difficult to listen to for anybody, but if you've got maybe children in your cars, then you might want to just take a couple of moments here to perhaps turn your radio down or something, because I'm going to play it in its entirety, and I'm not taking calls on this. There is absolutely no doubt that Scott Adams crossed a line, that Scott Adams didn't get canceled. Scott Adams committed suicide. He committed career suicide. When I first saw this video, I thought there is no way any human being is as stupid as Scott Adams. So bad I thought it was that I didn't want to air it because I thought it was a deep fake or something else like that, some sort of AI or whatever. But nope, it is absolutely real. And again, I caution you, what you're about to hear is difficult to listen to. But this is Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy who's just lost the Orlando Sentinel and pretty much every other newspaper in America. Here is Scott Adams on his relationship with black people.
So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed. Right? This can't be fixed. You just have to escape. So that's what I did. I went to a neighborhood where, I have a very low black population. Because unfortunately, there's a high correlation between the density. And this is according to Don Lemon, by the way. So here I'm just quoting Don Lemon when he notes that when he lived in a mostly black neighborhood, there were a bunch of problems that he didn't see in white neighborhoods. So even Don Lemon sees a big difference in your own quality of living based on where you live and who is there. So I think it makes no sense whatsoever as a white citizen of America to try to help black citizens anymore. It doesn't make sense. It's no longer a rational impulse. And so I'm gonna back off from being helpful to black America because it doesn't seem like it pays off. Like I've been doing it all my life, and the only outcome is I get called a racist. That's the only outcome. It makes no sense to help black Americans if you're white. It's over. Don't even think it's worth trying. Totally not trying. You didn't expect that today, did you? But those who don't want to focus on education, you just need to get away from them. Just get as much distance as you can. That's my recommendation. And I'm also really sick of seeing video after video of black Americans beating up non-black citizens. I realize it's anecdotal, and it doesn't give me a full picture of what's happening. But every damn day I look on social media and there's some black person beating the out of some white person. I'm kind of over it. I'm over it. Right? So I quit.
Yep, that's it. So that's Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip that will no longer appear in newspapers across America after he made those comments. And there is no way to interpret those comments in any way other than this guy is a bigot and a racist. And I am entirely convinced that he does not actually have any black friends at all. I'm sorry, but I have black friends. I have very close black friends. And to say things like that just screams to me that he does not have any black friends, because you would never talk like that if you loved someone who was black. And my black friends, I love my black friends. Here we go. This rocket launch happening right now.
Vehicles in range.
Stage 1, chamber pressure nominal.
Wherever you are, look east. You should get a good view. Skies are pretty clear tonight.
If you're just joining us, we are T plus 30 seconds into our mission today, and Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at 6:13 p.m. Eastern Time.
All right, stay with us here. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna wait for the booster to land on the barge that is out near the Bahamas. So stay with us. We're gonna follow this through the commercial break, and we'll have the landing for you on the barge when we come back. Stay right there. All right, if you are just now joining us, you just heard the successful launch of a Falcon 9. That's going to be delivering another batch of Starlink internet satellites into low Earth orbit. And now let's tune in once again as the first stage booster will be making a landing on the Gravitas ship that is out near the Bahamas. It's a barge.
Stage 1, also known as the booster, will ignite 3 engines to slow it down for atmospheric reentry.
Stage 1 FTS is safe. Stage 1 entry burn startup.
As a reminder, the first stage on your screen right now, being used to launch 21 Starlink satellites into space, is flying for its 3rd time.
First stage booster is about 44
Stage
kilometers.
1 entry burn shutdown.
Above
That's
the
confirmation
surface.
of entry burn shutdown on the first stage, which is the first of 2 burns the booster will complete during this return.
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
30 kilometers high. Traveling at more than 5,000 miles an hour, the first stage booster, as it careens back towards the Earth. The Stage 2 rocket is more than 17,000 kilometers per hour right now.
Stage 2 continuing on its way to space with 21 Starlink satellites on board.
The booster is 15 kilometers from the barge.
Expected loss of signal Cape Canaveral. Stage 1 transonic.
You just heard the call out that the first stage is transonic, which means it is traveling near the speed of sound as it returns to Earth. In just about 20 seconds, we should be coming up on the landing burn for the first stage.
It's 3 kilometers above the barge right now.
Terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 1 has lit 1 engine to prepare for landing on our drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas. This final burn slows down the rocket to help it stick the landing on the drone ship.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
It's beautiful. Beautiful night. Picture perfect landing.
Stage 1 landing success.
Great feedback from our team there. And of course, beautiful views confirming that we have successfully landed Stage 1.
I will never not be amazed by what they are able to do out at the Space Coast. I'll never not be amazed at space launches and space travel. In fact, I would love to see us get quite a bit more aggressive with that and maybe take some bigger chances. But as I am safely on the ground for the whole thing, maybe it's not my place to say that we should take bigger chances. It just blows my mind that we have, left the moon alone for so long, and we still haven't managed to send anybody to Mars. But congratulations once again to Elon Musk and SpaceX as they have successfully launched yet another batch of the Starlink internet satellites, though that the second stage is still on its way to the proper orbit before it releases those. That still could go wrong, but it's not likely to at this point. But we are... We wrap up our coverage there of the launch tonight of the SpaceX Falcon 9 carrying more Starlink internet satellites. I want to point out something programming-wise tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m., Brian Kilmeade is going to be talking to Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. They've already had the conversation, and Kilmeade is simply going to air it tomorrow. I think they talked yesterday, but it might have been today. But I do have a couple of preview clips for what you can expect to hear Governor DeSantis and Brian Kilmeade talking about tomorrow morning at 9:15 here on WDBO.
A couple of things. Has Bob Iger reached out and tried to undo this and fix it?
I haven't talked to him, and here's the thing: like the self-governing, that's done. They're not getting that back. They're
doesn't matter who calls.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, and because here's the thing, Brian, it is unjustifiable at this point. I mean, it's one thing they did it in the 60s. It was still a sweetheart deal, but there was nobody else there at the time. It was barren land. Now you've got all this activity, you've got other businesses, and it should be a level playing field. But I think really what they just need to do is go back to Walt's vision, make sure it's family friendly. Don't hijack your programming to try to impose a woke agenda.
Gotcha.
Ultimately, that's not good for our country or society, but it's also not good for your bottom line.
What do you guys think of that, of Governor DeSantis' comments? This, as today is the day that he signed the new legislation that essentially did away with the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Here's more from the discussion between DeSantis and Brian Kilmeade that'll air tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m.
I read the whole thing, not one disparaging word about President Trump. Are you guys speaking now? Do you plan on speaking to him? He seems to be taking some shots at you.
No, I mean, look, I mean, it's silly season. I mean, you know how some of this stuff goes, and obviously he does his thing, and it's just that's kind of who he is. But what I wanted to do was just give an honest appraisal of kind of how we got to this point, the failures of the D.C. Republican establishment, and how Donald Trump was speaking to things that some of the old guard refused to address, and that's just a fact. And you know, he can say what he wants about me. I'll always give him credit for the things that he did that were positive, and I'm appreciative of a lot of the things that he did. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that he's doing lately or whatever, but ultimately it's about delivering for the people you represent and delivering for the country. So I wasn't really into kind of trying to throw pot shots at anybody. My thing was just kind of explaining, my approach to leadership, the issues we've tackled in Florida, and how we've been able to, see really unprecedented success for our state.
Now that is it. That's a second soundbite that I have there for you. And again, tomorrow morning, 9:15 a.m. Maybe set an appointment on your phone or something like that, so that you remember to tune in at 9:15 tomorrow morning. For Governor DeSantis' full conversation with Brian Kilmeade. I'll tell you what's going on that very interesting in New York. The Dominion Voting Machines company is suing Fox News and several of the Fox hosts, including Sean Hannity and some others. And Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News, submitted a court filing today where he says that Fox News executives who knowingly allowed lies to be broadcast should be reprimanded. He says that Fox hosts endorsed the election claims, and that he said that Sean Hannity was privately disgusted by Trump but scared to lose viewers. That according to a court filing today, that Hannity was disgusted by Trump but was afraid of losing viewers. So he was complicit in the lie about the election being stolen from Donald Trump. Well, I'm sure you heard the story reported today here on WDBO, but a Florida man has been taken into custody after police found him with so much child pornography that they opted to weigh it. I mean, this guy's got boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of printed photographs depicting child pornography. This creepy old dude is 72 years old, Paul Zittel, Zittel. He's from Ocala. He's accused of keeping more than a ton of children porn in his home. That according to the Marion County Sheriff's Office. It comes out to 2,600 pounds or 220,000 photos. I have so many questions. I don't understand the appeal of child. That's just so gross, so beyond the pale, so horrible, such a terrible sin, such a terrible offense to humanity to force children into pornography and to document that. I mean, that just, it turns my stomach. But I don't get the hoarding. I don't why 220,000 explicit photos that he printed out. You know how much toner that would be? Or do you know how much, do you know the expense of something like that? He's facing 25 counts of possession of child pornography. He's being held on a $250,000 bond. And I will tell you that if you ever saw Game of Thrones, the infamous red wedding scene in the Game of Thrones, the whole red wedding was orchestrated by Lord Walder Frye, and that's who this guy looks like. He could be his stunt double, because that was a creepy old dude from the red wedding episode of Game of Thrones, and this is a creepy old dude that is really into child pornography, and the guy's 72. He looks a bit like Skeletor. I mean, he looks like a frail old man. But I hope he's not so frail that he's able to spend at least a good amount of time behind bars, which is where he belongs. It's terrible. Coming up in a second here, the discovery of something here in Central Florida known as the Jesus Christ lizard. A Jesus Christ lizard, and we're now being told to be on the lookout for the Jesus Christ lizard, and I'll explain what that means coming up in just a second. Well, the second stage booster is still on its way to the proper orbit right now from the SpaceX Falcon 9 that took off just a short time ago at 6:13 p.m. The payload fairing jettisoned about 3 minutes after its launch from Florida. They'll pick up the two halves of the fairing. They have a ship that is designed for recovering that. I'll tell you, if you ever go down to Port Canaveral, you can see the fleet of SpaceX vehicles there, of their boats and different types of boats. By the way, Randy, our producer, just said to me that the guy that has the ton of child pornography is definitely a so-called jump scare in a movie. If you don't know what a jump scare is, that's the scene where everything is kind of quiet and maybe the music is building up a little bit, and then suddenly a cat falls out of a bookshelf, and everybody in the theater jumps. That's a jump scare. So this guy looks like a jump scare.
I was casually going to the website because you kept talking about it, so I had to look and see what he looks like, and physically, I had a visceral reaction when the page loaded and saw him. Yeah,
he is a creepy. I mean, I hate to judge someone by their appearance. I'm not judging him as much by his appearance as I am by his behavior. I'm really judging him by his behavior. But as long as his behavior is so abysmal, his appearance looks like someone who would behave that way. If I saw that guy, anywhere, I would lock the doors. I would grab a little tighter onto a weapon of some sort. All right, the Jesus Christ lizard. Do you guys want to hear about the Jesus Christ lizard? So there is a new threat to Florida's environment, and it's possibly harmful to people. You know, all the non-indigenous species that we have here. I mean, I think the most common one, and it's down in South Florida, but the most common one is the Burmese pythons. Up here in Central Florida, the more common one is going to be like a Cuban tree frog. Those are non-native. Well, the Jesus Christ lizard is native to parts of Mexico, Central America, and South America, but the University of Florida Extension Office now says they're living in the wild in South and Central Florida because people have bought them as pets, or they've escaped, or they've been released. They tend to live along freshwater canals. They're carnivores. They feed on insects, including invasive mosquitoes, which also bite the lizards. They also eat native butterflies and native lizards, which could negatively impact the Florida environment. So if you see one of these so-called Jesus Christ lizards, you're supposed to kill it. Well, at the very least, you're supposed to document it. Now, why is it called a Jesus Christ lizard? Laurel, do you have any guesses? Would you care to take a guess?
Because it has a cross on it.
Well, that's a good guess. Randy, do you have any guesses? Have you already seen the article?
I didn't see the article. Long hair, maybe?
No. It's because it walks on water. You ever seen video of those lizards that like run across water? That's this lizard. It runs across the water, and they say it's amazing because the feet really aren't built for that. I mean, that lizard particularly, his feet are not designed for that, but somehow they walk on water. The real name of the lizard is the brown basilisk lizard. And I did not know this. So TIL, today I learned that scientists are calling on Floridians who see the lizards to snap photos and upload them on a state app called I've Got One.
Hold on. Is it basilisk or basilisk like in Harry Potter? I feel like that's important.
I don't know. I've never read or watched Harry Potter.
That's why you don't know how to say basilisk.
Basilisk? Well, it's spelled like basil, B-A-S-I-L, and then I-S-K.
Okay, I don't know. We need a reptile expert.
Right, yes. So it's a brown basilisk, or what?
You said basilisk. I said basilisk.
I don't know. Stop. Why would you? No, I don't know. So you're supposed to use that app called I've Got One, which I just downloaded. It's really cool. It is designed for and by the state of Florida so that you can report invasive species. The app provides the biologists with the location of the lizards so they can chart the spread of the invaders and recommend further action. What this article does not say is that you need to kill them when you see them. But I feel like that's implied. Aren't we supposed to kill invasive species when we see them, like the Cuban tree frog? I'm having drinks with Daryl Moody tomorrow night. He was the one that he was one who taught me about the invasive Cuban tree frog and how you're supposed to kill it. I watched as he killed one once. Ugh. All right, your thoughts, 844-580-WDBO, or hit me up in the open mic and the WDBO app. Well, Laurel, you'll appreciate this. I just got a text message from my wife, Ronnie Sue.
Okay.
And she says Laurel is right on the pronunciation.
Yeah, Ronnie. Woohoo!
So I said, how did you know that? And she said pronunciations from a 5th grade science book when she was a teacher.
She's a smart lady.
So I asked her, I said, use a little microphone thing there and say it so I can hear how to prep. So I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this with my phone, but let me see if you can hear this. Basilisk.
Yep.
So is that how you said it?
Yeah, that's how Harry Potter says it.
In what context does Harry Potter say it?
He fights a giant basilisk.
Is it a lizard?
It's a snake.
Oh.
It's a big, giant snake.
Do you think that J.K. Rowling knew that basilisk is actually a lizard, not a snake?
She probably Googled it. You're telling me you've never even seen any of the Harry Potter movies?
I might have seen 1 or 2 or 3. None. I don't remember anything other than, honestly, the only thing I remember is You're a wizard, Harry Potter. That's the only thing I remember from any of the Harry Potters.
That wasn't even the right line, but sure.
Oh, really?
It's just you're a wizard, Harry. But
Okay.
Sure.
There's big news out of the U.S. Marshals Service. The U.S. Marshals Service is reporting that they've suffered a major security breach that compromises sensitive information. They got hacked. They had a ransomware that has hit their system. And a statement Monday today from the U.S. Marshals Service, they say the affected system contains law enforcement sensitive information, including returns from legal process, administrative information, and personal identifiable information pertaining to subjects of U.S. Marshals Service investigations, third parties, and certain United States Marshals Service employees. The incident occurred on February 17th when Marshals Service discovered a ransomware and data exfiltration event affecting a standalone U.S. Marshals Service system. After the ransomware was discovered, the system was disconnected from the network, and the Justice Department began a forensic investigation. They add that on February 22nd, last week, they determined that this was this constitutes what they call a major incident. You know, it's so water under the bridge at this point, but we got hit by a ransomware attack a couple years ago, and I mean, to this day, we're still recovering from it. And we get test emails from our corporate office challenging us on emails that come to us. They literally test us to see if we'll click on a link that we get in the email. And I always err on the side of being way too cautious, and I report everything as a phishing scam. Even if it's a memo from my boss, I'm like, yeah, he's phishing. There's no way. He's not sending me that.